And we are live again. This is Riley Jacobson,
and Colton Randall.
and we are doing lesson 2, part 2, and we have questions 3 and 4. So I'll be starting off with question 3, and it's labeled Fossils and the Birth of Paleontologists with Nicholas Steno. Now, Nicholas Steno, he lived around 1666. This is when he started making his big discoveries. So there was a local duke of the land, and one of the fishermen in this land, they caught a big, huge shark. So the duke sent it to Nicholas Steno because he was a scientist and he wanted to see what he could find out about it. So Nicholas Steno took that shark and he took the teeth out of its mouth, and these teeth really resembled certain stones that the locals would find. And the locals didn't really know what these stones were, but they were kind of like the same shape as a shark's tooth. So Nicholas Steno made the connection that like the stone and the shark tooth was one and the same. But the thing is, the shark tooth was made out of bone, and the stone was stone. So that's where he came up with the theory of fossilization, that over time, organic matter such as bones, like being buried for a long time, eventually it fossilizes, and that bone is replaced by minerals, but it still retains the same shape and the same structure, just not necessarily the same organic material that it used to be.
Yeah, so Steno was also very significant in changing the way that the world thought about what fossils were and how fossils are created. And he proposed a hypothesis that was later turned into a law in geology that was called the law of superposition. And what he discovered was he was studying the hills in Italy, and he noticed that there was different layers of rocks in those hills and in cliffs. And what he discovered was that at some point in time there was likely a body of water, and the sediment in that water had settled to the bottom and it created these specific layers. And in these layers, that's where the fossils came, because organic matter was able to slide in between those layers, and the different sedimentary layers would build upon that organic matter, and that's where the fossils would come from, or the indentations that they would find. And this was really contrary to the time being where they thought that fossils were just fallen from earth or indentations that were rocks. And so this law really changed how we interpret what a fossil is, and really how we know that fossils were created by these different layers from this law of superposition.
That's right. So that's it for question 3. We're going to move on to question 4, which is nested hierarchies in the order of nature, Carolus Linnaeus. So Carolus Linnaeus was Swedish, and he lived from 1707 to 1779. And pretty much what he was tasked with is he really had this dream to be able to organize all of the different organisms and classes with a certain kind of system. There were systems that existed in the day, but it was made up. Every single person had their own system, so it was really confusing to try to teach another person based off of your own system when they had a different system. So he tried to make a universal classification system. So the system we have today with our kingdoms, classes, phylums, genus, is really based off of his original system.
Yeah. So the system, it was pretty good, and most of the time we use parts of it today in biology to name new species. But there were some different flaws in the system, and a lot of it was due to like molecular homology that we talked about in some later questions. But there were different things that he wasn't able to identify. There were either molecular or anatomically in different species at that time, and so different species have been moved around, and the system has been reorganized, but using similar genus, family, order, and kingdoms. But Charles Darwin also proposed kind of an interesting take on the system, because he introduced the idea of common ancestry into that system. And so do you group common ancestors together in the same genus or the same family, or do you group them separately based off of the anatomy that they're like? And so that was an interesting proposal that Darwin added to his system, and is something that we're continuing in biology right now to group and to organize in a way. But it was all based on his Latin roots and his basic system that he created in Sweden at that time.
So with the thing of common ancestors, I like to think of like back in the day, Linnaeus, he had a circle for each kind of group. So he had a circle here, a circle here, a circle here, a circle here. But with the idea of common ancestry, it was more a big circle and then a circle inside that, and then a circle inside that, and everything just inside one another. And as you got more specific or speciated, like you go farther in the circle to get more specific with certain species. So he grouped everything when before everything was separate in its own little group. So it kind of showed how we're all connected, which was really good and really important for evolution, which shows that everything is connected and everything came from something. Everything isn't just its own separate thing.
Yeah, the nomenclature is really important. So
that's it for our questions.
yep, thanks guys.